I have been waiting for this moment, my child. Not because I was distant from you, not because I was ignoring your prayers, but because there are some things that can only be revealed when the heart is ready to receive them. And that is why you are seeing this now. Read those words again in your spirit. You'll see this when God knows you're ready to see it. This is not just a title. This is the reason your attention stopped here. This is the reason something inside you felt a quiet pull instead of scrolling past. Out of countless distractions, out of all the voices competing for your focus, your eyes landed here at this exact moment. You may think it was random. You may call it coincidence. But I am telling you, beloved, there are moments I arrange with such precision that even your doubts cannot stop them. This is one of those moments. For a long time, you have been asking questions. Some of them you spoke aloud. Others remained hidden deep within your heart. You have searched for signs, looked for answers, waited for clarity, and wondered why certain doors stayed closed. There were times when you thought you were ready for the answer, ready for the breakthrough, ready for the explanation. But I saw what you could not see. I saw the lesson still unfolding. I saw the wound still healing. I saw the strength still being formed within you. I saw the timing that had not yet arrived. And now, something is different. You may not fully understand it yet, but your spirit has entered a place of readiness. The very fact that these words are reaching you is connected to something I have been preparing behind the scenes. What once would have confused you may now bring understanding. What once would have overwhelmed you may now bring peace. What once would have felt impossible may now become clear. So do not rush away from this message. If you leave now, you may miss the confirmation you have quietly been praying for. You may miss the perspective that helps you understand why certain battles lasted so long. You may miss the very thing I have been trying to place before you at the perfect moment. But if you stay, your heart may recognize my voice in a way it has not for a long time. The heaviness you have carried may begin to loosen its grip. Questions that have lingered in the shadows may start to find light. Pieces of your journey that seemed disconnected may suddenly reveal a greater purpose. Because I know your heart, my child. I know what you can carry. I know what you can understand. I know when to protect you from a truth and when to reveal it. And if you are seeing this now, it is because I know you are ready. Ready to hear what comes next. Ready to understand what I have been doing all along. Ready to receive a message that was not meant for an earlier version of you, but for the person you have become through every prayer, every struggle, every tear, and every step that brought you to this exact moment. Now listen closely, because what I am about to reveal is why I waited until now for you to see it. You may think you found this message during an ordinary moment, but I want you to understand that I have been guiding your heart here more carefully than you realize. You have been carrying questions deep inside yourself for a long time now. Some of them you spoke aloud in prayer, and some of them stayed hidden in the quiet parts of your mind where nobody else could hear them. I heard every one of them. Even when you felt distracted, exhausted, or emotionally numb, I was still listening to the things you struggled to explain. There were seasons when you wanted immediate answers from me. You wanted clarity about people, about closed doors, about why your life seemed harder than expected. But your heart was still trying to hold on to things that were keeping you stuck. If I had shown you everything too early, you would have misunderstood it through pain, fear, or frustration. Some truths can only be received when your spirit becomes calm enough to handle them without falling apart. You have changed through everything you survived. I know there were nights when you felt emotionally drained and wondered whether anything inside your life was truly moving forward. From your perspective, it looked like silence. It looked like delay. But when you were struggling to understand what was happening around you, I was quietly changing what was happening within you. The growth was happening deeper than your emotions could immediately recognize. You are beginning to see things differently now. Certain people no longer hold the same power over your peace. Some distractions that once consumed your attention no longer satisfy your heart the way they used to. That is not accidental. I have been slowly teaching you how to stop depending on temporary things to fill needs that only my presence can heal. I know you still carry confusion about certain parts of your journey. You still wonder why some prayers took so long and why some losses hurt as deeply as they did. But you are finally reaching a place where your heart is becoming open instead of defensive. You are starting to seek truth more honestly instead of simply searching for comfort. That is why this moment matters. You are not here because you became perfect. You are here because your soul is becoming ready to see what I have been placing in front of you all along. The pain did not destroy you even when it felt overwhelming at times. It softened places inside you that pride once protected. And now, little by little, you are finally able to hear my voice more clearly than before. My child, you have spent so much time looking back at certain moments in your life, trying to understand why I stayed quiet when you were desperate for direction. You wanted immediate clarity. You wanted me to explain why relationships changed, why opportunities disappeared, why some prayers seemed to reach a ceiling and return to you unanswered. I saw the frustration growing inside you. I watched you wrestle with confusion while trying to keep faith alive in your heart. But there is something you could not see back then. Your spirit was not ready yet for the weight of certain truth. You often believed that knowledge would immediately bring peace, but sometimes early understanding creates deeper fear instead. There were things I protected you from by allowing you to wait. You were asking me to reveal outcomes while your heart was still attached to expectations that would have broken you later. If I had shown you the full picture too soon, you would have tried to control it, force it, or run from it entirely. That is why I kept asking you to trust me one day at a time instead of demanding every answer at once. Think about how much you have changed already. The way you see people now is different. The way you respond to disappointment is different. Some things that once devastated you no longer hold the same power over your peace. That growth mattered more than you realized. I was not delaying your life to punish you. I was developing wisdom inside you quietly, patiently, layer by layer. You kept asking me for open doors while I was strengthening the heart that would eventually walk through them. I know waiting exhausted you. There were nights when you wondered whether you had been forgotten altogether. You compared your life to others and secretly questioned why everything seemed easier for them. But stop for a moment and look carefully at your own journey. You survived things that could have hardened your spirit completely. Instead, you became more compassionate, more aware, more honest about your need for me. The transformation did not happen overnight. So release the pressure you keep placing on yourself. Stop demanding that your entire future makes sense immediately. Breathe. Let your heart rest for a moment inside my timing instead of fighting against it. I need you to understand something important. The answers you once begged for are beginning to make sense now precisely because your spirit has matured enough to receive them differently. You are no longer standing where you used to stand emotionally. That is why you are finally able to hear what I have been trying to tell you all along. My child, I know how deeply some disappointments wounded you. There were moments when closed doors felt personal. You thought silence meant rejection. You watched plans collapse after you invested your heart into them, and it left you questioning your worth in ways you rarely admit to anyone. I saw every moment of it. I saw you trying to stay hopeful while privately wondering why life kept moving differently than you expected. But I need you to stop viewing every delay as proof that you failed. Some things did not happen because they were never meant to carry your future. You were emotionally attached to outcomes that would have drained the peace from your life later on. At the time, you could not see beyond your desire for immediate relief, immediate love, immediate success, immediate certainty. But I could already see the full road ahead. I could see where certain people would eventually lead you. I could see how some opportunities would slowly pull your heart away from who you were becoming. That is why I stepped in quietly, even when you misunderstood my silence. You asked me for blessings while still carrying exhaustion, insecurity, and fear that needed healing first. If I had placed certain responsibilities into your hands too early, the pressure would have crushed parts of you that were still fragile underneath the surface. You believed you were ready simply because you wanted something deeply. But readiness is not built by desire alone. Readiness grows through endurance, reflection, surrender, and the painful process of learning what truly matters. I know you became discouraged watching other people receive things you had prayed for yourself. That comparison created hidden sadness inside your heart. You questioned why their lives seemed to move forward while yours felt delayed. But you were measuring your journey through human timing instead of spiritual preparation. What I am building in you requires a stronger foundation than you realize. So stop calling yourself abandoned. Stop interpreting every pause as failure. Some delays were actually acts of mercy carrying my fingerprints all over them. I protected you from situations that looked beautiful on the outside but would have slowly emptied your spirit. I blocked paths that would have distracted you from the deeper healing your soul needed first. Now I want you to release the bitterness you still carry toward the waiting season. Open your hands instead of clenching them tightly around old disappointment. Trust that I have not wasted your time. Even now, I am preparing things for your life that require the stronger, wiser version of you that is finally beginning to emerge. My child, there are parts of your story that still confuse you because you lived through moments that seemed unfair, lonely, and painfully silent. You kept asking why certain people disappeared when you needed them most. You questioned why support faded during seasons when your heart already felt exhausted. I know you tried to stay strong through it, but there were nights when you sat alone with thoughts you could barely carry anymore. You smiled in front of others while quietly wondering if anyone truly understood how tired you had become inside. But I need you to pause and look at your life differently now. Stop measuring those painful seasons only by what you lost. Look carefully at what they produced inside you. Those experiences changed the way you see people, the way you protect your peace, and the way you search for meaning. You became more discerning. You became more honest with yourself. Some illusions had to break because you were building your identity around things that could never fully hold you together. At the time, you thought I had stepped away from you. You interpreted the silence as distance. Yet while you were grieving what disappeared, I was quietly preparing your heart for a deeper kind of stability. You depended so heavily on external reassurance that every rejection felt like proof that something was wrong with you. I wanted to free you from that prison slowly, carefully, because your worth was never supposed to rise and fall based on who stayed or who walked away. You survived conversations that wounded you deeply. You survived disappointment after disappointment without fully realizing how much resilience was growing inside your spirit. Even now, you underestimate how much strength has quietly developed within you. You are no longer the same person who used to panic every time life became uncertain. You still feel fear sometimes, but you are learning how to breathe through it instead of letting it completely control you. So come closer to me now. Stop running back toward old versions of yourself simply because they feel familiar. Let me show you what these seasons were truly doing inside you. I was teaching you how to stand without constantly needing approval from everyone around you. I was teaching you how to listen more carefully to your spirit instead of every voice competing for your attention. Do not resent the process that strengthened you. Do not call yourself abandoned when I was reshaping your heart beneath the surface all along. Some of the hardest chapters of your life were preparing you to carry peace in a way you never could before. Breathe for a moment and recognize this truth. You survived more than you thought you would, and I was holding you through every single part of it. My child, the same pain that transformed you is now becoming oil for someone else's healing. There are people wandering through silent battles tonight who will hear these words at the exact moment I know they are ready to see them, and your support helps carry this light into their darkness. I tell you now, as I declared in Luke 6:38, give, and it will be given unto you, because every seed sown into this mission becomes part of a harvest touching wounded hearts across the earth. When you release generosity through Super Thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description, you are not funding a message. You are helping me reach souls standing at the edge of hopelessness. Do not underestimate what one act of obedience can unlock spiritually. I can multiply what leaves your hand just as I multiplied oil for the widow and manna in the wilderness for my people. This is not random timing. This is a divine invitation placed before you because I trust your heart to help carry my voice further. Sow your seed now, support this mission immediately, and watch how I breathe fresh peace, protection, and favor back into your life. My child, I know how difficult it was watching certain opportunities disappear right in front of you. You invested your hope into people, plans, and dreams that felt important to your future. When those doors closed, you immediately blamed yourself. You replayed your mistakes in your mind and wondered whether you had ruined something that could have changed your life forever. I watched you carry that disappointment quietly for much longer than anyone realized. There were moments when you begged me to reopen doors that I intentionally closed for your protection. You could not understand it at the time because your emotions were attached to the possibility of what those things represented. Some doors looked beautiful from your perspective because they promised relief, validation, companionship, or success. But I could already see what those paths would eventually cost your peace. You often confuse access with alignment. Just because something becomes available does not mean it belongs in your future. Some opportunities arrive as distractions disguised as answers. Some relationships feel exciting while quietly pulling your heart away from the person you are becoming. I needed you to learn that discernment matters more than urgency. If everything opened instantly every time you desired it, you would have walked into situations that slowly emptied your spirit. Think about how many things you desperately wanted years ago that no longer fit who you are now. At one time, you believed those things would complete your life. Now you can see they would have created exhaustion instead of peace. That realization is part of your growth. Your heart is becoming wiser. You are learning how to recognize the difference between what simply feels good temporarily and what genuinely carries my direction for your life. So stop mourning every closed door as if it was your only chance at happiness. Release the need to force outcomes that I already warned your spirit about, quietly. Pay attention to the peace inside you instead of only chasing emotional excitement. Slow down before you attach your future to things that were never designed to carry it. I want you to trust me enough to believe that closed doors can also be acts of love. Some prayers were answered through redirection instead of permission. Some blessings entered your life through protection you did not recognize until much later. Open your heart to the truth now. Let the bitterness leave. Let the regret loosen its grip on you. You are not falling behind in life. I am guiding you away from paths that would have taken you further from the peace your soul truly needs. My child, you have asked me many times to show you everything clearly. You wanted certainty about your future, certainty about people, certainty about whether your life was truly moving in the right direction. I understood why you longed for that clarity. Your heart was tired of confusion, tired of disappointment, tired of trying to stay hopeful while carrying silent fear underneath your smile. But there are truths that cannot enter a restless heart safely. Some understanding only becomes healing after your spirit learns how to receive it with peace instead of panic. There were seasons when you were still reacting emotionally to everything around you. One conversation could shake your confidence for days. One closed door could convince you that you were failing in life. One disappointment could pull you into overthinking until your mind became exhausted. If I had revealed certain things during the time, you would have misunderstood them through insecurity instead of wisdom. You would have carried knowledge without the stability needed to hold it carefully. Look at how much has shifted inside you already. You are beginning to pause before reacting. You are learning how to sit quietly with your thoughts instead of letting fear immediately control the direction of your mind. That growth matters deeply, even if nobody else notices it yet. Your spirit is becoming steadier. And when your heart becomes steady, truth no longer feels like a threat. It becomes freedom. I want you to stop chasing answers from every outside voice for a moment. Come sit with me quietly instead. Bring me the thoughts you keep hiding behind distractions. Bring me the fears you pretend no longer affect you. Let me teach you how to listen without rushing. Some of the clarity you seek cannot be forced through anxiety or emotional urgency. It arrives gently when your heart becomes calm enough to recognize my voice beneath all the noise. You are no longer where you used to be emotionally. At one time, you would have run from certain truths because they challenged the life you thought you wanted. But now your spirit is becoming more honest. You are starting to care less about appearances and more about peace. The change is opening your heart in ways you do not fully realize yet. To slow down. Stop demanding immediate explanations for everything unfolding around you. Trust that I know the exact moment your heart is ready for deeper understanding. I do not hide truth from you to punish you. I protect you until wisdom has enough room to grow inside your spirit. And now, little by little, you are becoming ready to see things with clearer eyes than ever before. My child, I know there were moments when your pain made no sense to you. You tried to stay composed while carrying wounds nobody else fully understood. Some hurts came from rejection. Some came from disappointment. Some came from watching people change in ways you never expected. There were nights when you replayed entire seasons of your life in your mind, wondering whether you could have prevented certain losses if you had been better, wiser, or stronger. I saw every part of that struggle. What you could not see at the time was how those painful experiences were shaping your heart in two different ways at once. In some places, your pain softened you. You became more compassionate toward people carrying hidden burdens because you understood what silent suffering feels like. You stopped judging others as quickly because life humbled you through your own battles. Your heart became more tender toward weakness, loneliness, and emotional exhaustion because you personally walked through those valleys yourself. But pain also strengthened you in places where fear once controlled you. You learned how to survive uncertainty. You discovered that you could endure disappointment without completely losing yourself. Some situations that would have shattered you years ago no longer carry the same power over your peace. That strength did not appear suddenly. It grew slowly through every difficult season you thought was breaking you apart. I want you to stop speaking about your pain as if it only damaged you. Yes, some scars still ache. Yes, certain memories still affect you more deeply than you admit. But do not ignore what those seasons produced inside your spirit. You became more real, more honest, more aware of how deeply people need love, patience, and understanding. Your suffering changed the way you see the world. Come closer to me now and let me heal the parts of you that still feel fragile. Stop hiding your exhaustion behind constant pretending. You do not need to act strong every moment of your life to deserve peace. Let your heart rest for a while. Release the pressure to carry everything alone. I used your pain carefully, even when you could not understand it. Some experiences taught you wisdom that comfort alone never could have taught. Other experiences revealed how deeply you needed my presence in ways success never would have revealed. That is why I need you to stop hating every painful chapter of your life. Some of those chapters created the compassionate, resilient, emotionally aware person you are slowly becoming now. My child, I know how deeply certain endings affected you. You still think about some of those conversations. You still remember the silence that followed people you once trusted completely. There were moments when someone slowly drifted away from your life and you immediately blamed yourself for it. You questioned your worth. You replayed your mistakes in your mind late at night, wondering whether you could have loved harder, spoken differently, or fixed what was falling apart before it collapsed completely. But I want you to stop carrying every broken relationship as proof that you were the problem. Some people left because they were only meant to walk beside you for one chapter, not for your entire journey. You were trying to hold on to connections that no longer aligned with where your spirit was growing. At the time, that separation felt painful and personal because your heart was emotionally attached to familiarity. You wanted stability. You wanted reassurance. You wanted certain people to remain exactly as they once were. But people change, seasons change, and sometimes I allow distance because your future requires room for different influences around you. There were relationships that kept pulling you backward emotionally. Some people only knew the version of you that survived through fear, insecurity, and constant self-doubt. As your heart began healing, those connections became uncomfortable because your spirit was changing while they still expected you to remain the same. The tension exhausted you more than you admitted. You kept trying to preserve peace while quietly abandoning your own emotional well-being. Come closer to me now and release the guilt you keep carrying from those endings. Stop convincing yourself that every departure means you are difficult to love. Some separations were acts of protection, not punishment. I removed voices that constantly confused your spirit. I created distance where emotional dependence was quietly replacing healthy growth. You could not fully step into the next season of your life while dragging old emotional patterns behind you. I know loneliness frightened you during those transitions. There were nights when the silence felt heavy because familiar people were no longer surrounding you the way they once did. But pay attention carefully to what those empty spaces created inside you. You began learning how to seek peace instead of approval. You started recognizing how often you ignored your own needs just to keep others comfortable. You not run backward now simply because healing feels unfamiliar sometimes. Let me continue guiding your relationships carefully. Open your heart to the people who bring clarity instead of confusion, honesty instead of manipulation, peace instead of emotional exhaustion. Your next season cannot fully begin while your heart remains chained to connections that were only meant to teach you, not define your future forever. My child, just as I removed certain relationships to prepare your next season, I am also connecting you to assignments that carry eternal impact. There are broken souls waiting to encounter this message because they secretly believe they have been abandoned, and your giving helps release living water into places where despair has been growing for years. I speak to you now through Galatians 6:9. Do not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. Every super thanks, every membership, and every PayPal donation through the link in the description becomes a seed planted into my kingdom, and I will not allow faithful seeds to return empty. Some people scrolling through these videos are one word away from surrendering their pain to me completely. I have called this channel to be a lamp in dark places, and I am inviting you to help keep that flame burning brightly for others. As you release generosity, I will release fresh strength, divine connections, and unexpected provision over your life. Do not delay what I am stirring in your spirit. Act now, so boldly, and help carry my word to the hearts that are waiting for it. My child, you spent so much of your life searching for reassurance from people who were just as uncertain as you were. You looked for approval in conversations, relationships, achievements, and even small reactions from others. Without realizing it, your emotions slowly became dependent on how accepted, noticed, or appreciated you felt each day. When people affirmed you, you felt secure for a moment. When they became distant or critical, your peace disappeared quickly. I watched how exhausting that became for your heart. You were carrying pressure that I never asked you to carry. You kept trying to earn a feeling of worthiness through performance, through pleasing others, through proving yourself over and over again. But validation is unstable when it comes from human hands alone. People change easily. Their opinions shift. Their attention fades. If your identity depends completely on external approval, your peace will constantly rise and fall with circumstances outside your control. That is why I allowed certain disappointments to expose how dependent you had become on other voices. I know those moments hurt. Rejection wounded you deeply because it touched fear you had carrying quietly for years. But look carefully at what those experiences revealed. They showed you how often you ignored your own emotional needs while trying to keep everyone else satisfied. They exposed how afraid you were of disappointing people, even when pleasing them was damaging your own spirit. Now I want you to slow down and pay attention to something different. Notice the quiet feeling that settles inside you when you stop performing for acceptance. Notice how your spirit responds when you choose honesty instead of pretending. That peace matters more than applause ever will. It is gentle, but it is real. And I have been teaching your heart how to recognize it. Come sit with me for a moment without trying to impress anyone. Stop measuring your value through the inconsistent opinions of people who cannot fully see your heart the way I do. Let your soul rest from the endless pressure of trying to be enough for everyone around you. You do not need to constantly explain yourself, defend yourself, or earn the right to exist peacefully. You are finally beginning to understand that peace and validation are not the same thing. Validation often feels loud, urgent, and temporary. Peace arrives differently. It settles slowly into your spirit and allows you to breathe again without fear controlling every thought. I want you to choose that peace now. Protect it carefully. Stop abandoning it simply because someone else fails to understand your journey. Your healing requires space where your spirit can finally breathe freely instead of constantly begging the world for permission to feel worthy. My child, I know there were nights when the silence around you felt almost unbearable. You lay awake carrying thoughts you could not escape, wondering why your prayers seemed to rise into emptiness without any visible answer returning to you. You tried to stay faithful while exhaustion slowly settled deeper into your heart. Some nights you whispered only a few words because you no longer had strength for long prayers. Other nights you said nothing at all and simply sat there with tears in your eyes, hoping somehow I still understood what your spirit could not explain. I was there through every one of those moments. Even when your room felt empty, my presence had not left you. Even when your emotions convinced you that heaven was silent, I was still listening carefully to every fear, every question, every quiet ache hidden beneath your breathing. You measured my closeness by visible results, but I was working in places your eyes could not yet see. I was strengthening parts of your spirit that only grow during seasons where trust becomes deeper than immediate comfort. You often assumed silence meant abandonment because human relationships taught you that distance usually follows disinterest. But I do not leave the way people leave. I do not disappear when your emotions become complicated or when your faith feels tired. I stayed beside you during those sleepless nights when anxiety raced through your thoughts like waves crashing against a fragile shore. I watched you trying to carry burdens far heavier than your heart was meant to hold alone. Come closer to me now and stop hiding your loneliness behind distractions that never truly heal you. Put down the pressure to appear strong every moment. Sit honestly with me for a while. Bring me the disappointments you keep replaying privately. Let your spirit breathe instead of constantly pretending everything is fine while your soul quietly struggles underneath the surface. You are beginning to realize something important now. Some of your deepest spiritual growth happened during seasons you once considered empty. The silence forced you to search for me differently. It pushed you beyond shallow comfort and into a deeper kind of dependence. You learned how to keep walking even when you could not immediately feel certainty surrounding you. So stop calling yourself forgotten. Stop believing that unanswered timing means unanswered love. I heard every prayer you prayed through tears, frustration, confusion, and exhaustion. Some answers were delayed because your story was still unfolding in ways you could not understand yet. But my attention never left you, not for one moment. Even now, while you remember those lonely nights, I want you to recognize this truth clearly. You survived them because I was holding you far more closely than you realized at the time. My child, I know there were seasons when life felt like it was pulling everything apart inside you. Certain experiences changed the way you saw yourself completely. Plans failed. Relationships shifted. Confidence disappeared in ways that frightened you. There were moments when you barely recognized your own thoughts anymore because so much uncertainty surrounded your life at once. You kept asking why everything familiar suddenly felt unstable. But beneath all that discomfort, something deeper was happening within you. You were outgrowing old versions of yourself without fully realizing it. Some habits, thought patterns, and emotional attachments could not continue into the next season I am preparing for you. At one time, you depended heavily on control, approval, and predictable outcomes to feel secure. Your peace disappeared and at times life moved differently than you expected. I knew that kind of fragile foundation could not support the future waiting ahead of you. That is why certain situations shook you so deeply. I was not trying to destroy your identity. I was exposing parts of it that had quietly become unhealthy for your spirit. Some painful moments revealed how much fear was controlling your decisions. Other moments uncovered how often you abandoned your own peace simply to avoid disappointing people around you. You were surviving emotionally, but you were not truly free. I want you to stop mourning every old version of yourself that life forced you to release. Some parts of you needed to fall away. The version of you that constantly begged for validation could not carry the confidence I want to build inside your spirit now. The version of you that ignored boundaries to keep everyone else comfortable could not sustain healthy peace long term. Those old patterns had to be confronted honestly before healing could fully begin. Come sit with me quietly and let your heart acknowledge how much you have already changed. You are more self-aware now, more emotionally honest, more willing to protect your peace instead of sacrificing it constantly for temporary approval. But growth came through painful refinement, not instant transformation. Do not fear the process that is unfolding inside you. I know change feels uncomfortable when familiar patterns begin breaking apart. But trust me enough to keep moving forward instead of returning to old emotional prisons simply because they feel familiar. You are not losing yourself. You are becoming someone stronger, steadier, and more deeply rooted than before. The hardest moments of your life were not random storms without purpose. Many of them were separating you from identities built around fear, insecurity, and emotional survival. And now, little by little, your spirit is becoming ready for the deeper peace wisdom, and freedom I have been leading you toward all along. My child, I know there were moments when disappointment settled so deeply into your heart that you stopped expecting good things to happen anymore. You still kept moving through life, still smiled when people looked at you, still tried to stay responsible and strong, but something inside you quietly became tired. Each unanswered prayer, each delay, each painful surprise added weight to your spirit little by little. What hurt the most was not always the big losses. Sometimes it was the repeated small disappointments that slowly drained your hope without anyone noticing. I watched you become cautious with your expectations because you were afraid of being hurt again. You stopped fully trusting joyful moments because part of you secretly wondered how long they would last before something changed. Even when opportunities appeared, fear stood beside your excitement, whispering that things would probably fall apart eventually. I know how exhausting it became carrying both hope and fear at the same time. Come sit with me honestly for a moment and stop pretending those disappointments did not affect you deeply. Let your heart admit how tired it has been. You do not need to hide your sadness from me. I already saw every time your spirit quietly shut down after another setback. I saw the nights when your mind replayed painful memories while you questioned whether life would ever feel lighter again. But listen carefully now. I never wanted disappointment to become your permanent identity. Pain may have visited your life, but I did not create your heart to live trapped inside constant emotional survival mode. That is why I kept protecting the small flame of hope inside you, even during seasons when you felt emotionally numb. You may not realize it, but there were moments when you were far closer to giving up than anyone around you understood. Yet somehow you kept going. Somehow your spirit kept searching for meaning, healing, and peace. That was not an accident. I was sustaining you quietly from within. Now I want you to release the belief that disappointment will always define your future. Stop expecting every good thing to disappear before it even arrives. Stop speaking to yourself through the language of fear alone. Your heart deserves space to breathe again without constantly preparing for loss. Take my hand and let me rebuild trust inside you slowly. Healing does not happen through pressure. It happens when your soul finally feels safe enough to hope again. I know exactly how much pain you have carried, and I also know how much healing your spirit is capable of receiving now. Do not close your heart completely because of what wounded you before. There is still life ahead of you that your tired heart has not experienced yet. My child, I know disappointment tried to close your heart, yet you are still here listening because I preserved hope inside you for a reason greater than you can fully see right now. There are weary people searching for one sign that I have not forgotten them, and through your support, this message becomes a river flowing directly into their dry places. I remind you now of Isaiah 58:11. I will continually refresh your soul like a watered garden, because those who pour into my work will not remain empty themselves. When you give through Super Thanks, become a member, or sow through the PayPal link in the description, you are helping wounded hearts encounter my presence at the exact moment they are ready to receive it. This is holy ground, not casual generosity. Your seed becomes light for someone trapped in emotional darkness and bread for spirits starving for peace. I see every sacrifice made quietly in faith, and I promise that what is released from your hand in obedience will return multiplied with favor, protection, and restoration attached to it. Open your heart fully, respond to my prompting now, and support this mission without hesitation. My child, there were seasons when you prayed intensely for certain people, opportunities, and outcomes because you believed they would finally make your life feel complete. You attached so much emotional energy to those desires that losing them felt unbearable at the time. You cried over closed doors. You questioned my silence. You wondered why I would allow you to want something so deeply only for it to disappear from your hands later. I know how personal those disappointments felt to you. But I need you to look at your journey honestly now. You have changed. Your priorities have changed. Your spirit has matured through experiences that forced you to see life differently. Some things you once called blessings would actually disturb the peace I have been building inside you today. At one time, you wanted certain relationships because you feared loneliness more than dysfunction. You wanted certain opportunities because you thought success would finally quiet your insecurities. You were chasing answers for emotional wounds you had not fully healed yet. If I had given you everything you demanded during those seasons, your life might have looked impressive from the outside while your spirit slowly became exhausted underneath it all. Some people would have drained your emotional stability. Some paths would have intensified your anxiety instead of bringing peace. You only saw the immediate desire, but I saw the long-term consequences hidden beneath it. Come closer to me now and stop mourning every unanswered prayer as if it was stolen from you unfairly. Some things were withheld because I love you too much to let temporary desires destroy deeper healing taking place inside your heart. You asked for things that matched your emotional hunger at the time, but I was protecting the peace your future self would desperately need later. Notice how different your perspective has already become. Certain situations that once consumed your thoughts no longer carry the same emotional control over you. That shift matters. Your spirit is learning how to value peace over chaos, wisdom over urgency, and emotional stability over temporary excitement. Growth often changes your desires before it changes your circumstances. So stop romanticizing every closed chapter from your past. Release the fantasy that every unanswered prayer would have automatically created happiness for you. Some things only looked beautiful because you viewed them through wounded emotions and incomplete understanding. Now I want you to trust my protection more deeply. Let your heart rest from constantly questioning why certain doors never reopened. Some prayers were answered through removal instead of permission. Some blessings entered your life disguised as endings you did not understand yet. And even now, I am still guiding you toward a future that protects not only your goals, but also your peace. My child, for so long you believed strength meant carrying everything silently. You convinced yourself that staying composed was the only way to survive difficult seasons. Even when your heart felt overwhelmed, you kept showing up for everyone else. You answered messages while secretly drained. You smiled in conversations while your mind was exhausted from overthinking everything alone. You became so used to hiding your pain that eventually even you stopped recognizing how tired your spirit had become. I watched you push yourself beyond healthy limits because you were afraid of disappointing people. You carried burdens you never admitted out loud. Some days your body rested, but your mind never truly stopped. The pressure inside you kept building quietly while you continued pretending everything was manageable. You thought emotional exhaustion only happened to weak people, so you ignored the signs your soul kept giving you. But pretending to be okay does not create peace. It only delays the moment your heart finally admits it needs healing too. Come sit with me honestly now. Stop performing strength every second of your life. You do not need to prove your worth through constant endurance. Lay down the pressure to hold every part of your world together by yourself. I never asked you to carry life without rest, without vulnerability, or without support. Some of your exhaustion came not from responsibilities alone, but from the emotional mask you kept wearing to protect yourself from appearing fragile. I know there were moments when you felt guilty for feeling tired because other people depended on you. But your soul also needed care. Your heart needed room to breathe. Instead of listening to that need, you kept silencing it with distraction, overworking, or emotional withdrawal. Little by little, your inner world became heavier than you realized. Now I want you to release the belief that strength means emotional isolation. Real healing begins when you stop hiding from what hurts inside you. Let yourself acknowledge the fatigue honestly instead of constantly fighting against it. Bring me the stress you keep carrying privately. Bring me the fears you bury beneath busy routines. You do not lose dignity by admitting you need rest. You are learning something important now. A peaceful life cannot grow inside a constantly exhausted spirit. That is why I have been slowing certain things down around you lately. I am teaching you how to stop living in survival mode every day. I am teaching you how to rest emotionally instead of only physically. Breathe for a moment and let your shoulders relax. Stop forcing yourself to appear unbreakable. You are still loved even in your tired seasons. And as you begin allowing honesty to replace emotional pretending, your heart will finally discover the kind of peace you have been searching for all along. My child, there were moments when your pain became so deep that words no longer came easily. You sat quietly with emotions you did not know how to explain, not even to yourself. Some nights you tried to pray but could barely focus because your thoughts were tangled with fear, disappointment, exhaustion, and confusion. You wondered whether silence made your prayers weaker. You worried that because you did not always know what to say, maybe heaven had stopped listening altogether. But I heard every tear before it ever touched your face. I understood the cries hidden behind your silence. Human language is not required for me to recognize a wounded heart. I saw you during those moments when you stared at the ceiling trying to hold yourself together emotionally. I saw the heaviness you carried into sleep. I saw the mornings when you woke up already tired because your mind had been fighting battles all night long. You kept apologizing to yourself for feeling emotional, as if your tears were proof that your faith was failing. But your tears never pushed me away from you. They revealed how deeply your heart needed comfort, healing, and rest. Some of your most honest prayers were never spoken aloud at all. They existed inside trembling breaths, exhausted silence, and quiet moments where all you could do was sit there hoping somehow I still understood you. And I did. I always did. Come closer to me now, and stop believing you must always appear spiritually strong in order to deserve my attention. Bring me your confusion honestly. Bring me the sadness you still hide from other people. Stop filtering every emotion before you let yourself speak to me. I already know the full condition of your heart, and I am not frightened by your vulnerability. There were times when my answers seemed delayed, and I know that tested your spirit deeply. But delayed answers never meant ignored prayers. Sometimes healing begins invisibly before circumstances change visibly. While you were waiting for external breakthroughs, I was strengthening your inner world quietly so your heart would not collapse under the weight of everything you were carrying. Now let your spirit rest inside this truth for a moment. You were never abandoned in your suffering. I stayed with you through every sleepless night, every silent breakdown, every hidden fear that nobody else noticed. Even when your faith felt fragile, my presence remained steady beside you. So stop holding back your heart from me. Speak freely. Cry freely. Sit quietly if you need to. You do not need perfect words to reach me. Your soul has always been fully visible in my eyes, even during the moments when you felt completely unseen by everyone else around you. My child, there were seasons when confusion surrounded your life so heavily that you barely knew what direction to trust anymore. One person told you one thing while another voice pulled you somewhere completely different. You searched for reassurance in conversations, opinions, advice, and constant explanations because you were desperate to feel certain about what to do next. I watched you exhausting yourself trying to gather clarity from people who were just as limited, emotional, and uncertain as you were. You kept hoping someone would finally say the perfect words that would calm your fears instantly. Sometimes you depended on human reassurance so deeply that when people became distant, changed their minds, or failed to understand you, your peace collapsed with them. That confusion was painful, but it exposed something important happening inside your spirit. You had slowly started depending more on external voices than on quiet time with me. I allowed some of that confusion to continue longer than you wanted because your soul needed to learn discernment. You needed to discover that not every opinion deserves authority over your life. Some people spoke from their own fears. Others projected their wounds onto your decisions. Some simply could not see the deeper work I was doing inside you. If you had continued following every voice around you, your spirit would have remained scattered, anxious, and emotionally unstable. Come closer to me now and step away from the noise for a while. Stop searching for certainty from people who cannot fully carry the responsibility of your future. Sit quietly with me instead. Listen carefully to what brings peace inside your spirit instead of what simply sounds comforting in the moment. Discernment grows slowly, but it becomes powerful once your heart learns how to recognize my voice above emotional pressure. You are beginning to notice the difference now. Some advice leaves your spirit feeling restless even when it sounds reasonable on the surface. Other moments bring calm understanding without needing dramatic reassurance. That is not coincidence. I have been teaching you how to recognize spiritual peace instead of emotional impulse. Do not resent the confusion you once hated so deeply. It forced you to mature. It taught you that human approval cannot replace spiritual direction. It showed you how quickly anxiety grows when your identity depends too heavily on outside validation. Those painful seasons were training your heart to seek wisdom differently. Now breathe for a moment and release the pressure to figure everything out through constant overthinking. You do not need every answer immediately to move forward faithfully. Let me guide your spirit more personally now. Trust that I can lead you without confusion, controlling every step. The clarity you have been searching for begins growing the moment you stop giving every outside voice equal power over your peace. My child, I allowed confusion to break your dependence on human voices because I needed you to recognize mine more clearly. And now I am calling you into deeper partnership with what I am doing here. There are souls trapped in fear, anxiety, and spiritual noise who will finally hear my peace through these messages because faithful people chose to help spread this word. As it is written in Proverbs 11:25, the generous soul shall be made rich, and I speak that promise over every person who sows into this assignment today. Your super thanks, your membership, and your PayPal donation through the link in the description are not small acts. They are sparks helping ignite hope in lives hanging by a thread. This mission is becoming a fire in dark places, and I am inviting you to place your hands on the altar with me. Do not ignore the stirring you feel inside right now, because obedience carries its own blessing, and timing matters spiritually. I know how to multiply the seeds of those who trust me, and I know how to protect what concerns them. Step forward now. Give boldly, and help carry my voice farther than your eyes can currently see. My child, I know how uncomfortable silence became for you at times. You filled your days with distractions because quiet moments often forced you to face emotions you were not ready to confront honestly. When life slowed down, thoughts you had buried suddenly became louder. Questions surfaced. Old wounds reopened. Fear, loneliness, disappointment, and uncertainty all seemed to rise at once whenever everything around you became still. That is why you often stayed busy even when your spirit was exhausted. But silence was never meant to punish you. I allowed quiet seasons because your soul needed space to hear truths that constant noise kept covering. When your life was full of distractions, you avoided deeper reflection. You moved quickly from one task, one conversation, or one source of entertainment to another because staying emotionally still felt too vulnerable. Yet some healing cannot happen while your mind is constantly running from itself. I watched you during those lonely moments when there was nothing left to distract your heart anymore. Those were difficult seasons for you. You questioned why life suddenly felt slower, quieter, and emotionally heavier. But beneath the discomfort, something important was happening. You were finally beginning to hear your own soul clearly. You started recognizing patterns that had quietly wounded you for years. You became aware of fears you had ignored. You noticed emotional habits that kept stealing your peace repeatedly. Come sit with me in the quiet now instead of running from it. Put down the constant need for distraction. Stop filling every empty space with noise simply because silence feels unfamiliar. There are things your spirit still needs to understand deeply, and that understanding often grows best in stillness. You are learning now that silence can reveal what noise hides. In quiet moments, you began realizing how tired your heart truly was. You discovered how much emotional weight you had been carrying without admitting it fully. You noticed how often you searched for comfort outside of me instead of bringing your wounds directly into my presence. Do not fear these quieter seasons anymore. Some of the deepest wisdom in your life has grown there. Silence slowed you down long enough to recognize what truly matters. It softened your spirit in places where constant distraction had hardened it before. Now I want you to stop resisting the stillness. Let your heart breathe without rushing to escape uncomfortable thoughts immediately. Sit with me. Listen carefully. Healing often begins quietly long before visible changes appear around you. And many of the answers you have been searching for so desperately can only be recognized once the noise finally becomes still enough for your spirit to hear my voice clearly again. My child, there were moments when you built your entire emotional stability around plans you believed had to succeed. You convinced yourself that if certain relationships worked out, if certain opportunities opened, or if certain dreams finally happened, then you would finally feel secure, valuable, and complete. Without realizing it, your identity slowly became tied to outcomes instead of rooted in me. That is why some disappointments affected you so deeply. They did not just change your circumstances. They shook the way you saw yourself. I watched you pour enormous emotional energy into plans that became more important to your peace than they should have been. When those things began falling apart, panic rushed into your spirit because you felt like your future was collapsing with them. You kept asking why I allowed certain situations to fail after you invested so much hope into them. But some plans had become unhealthy attachments quietly controlling your emotions. I could not allow your identity to depend entirely on things that were never stable enough to carry your soul safely. You were searching for security and outcomes because you were afraid of uncertainty. Success felt safer than surrender. Control felt safer than trust. But true peace cannot grow in a heart constantly trying to force life into a specific shape. That pressure exhausted you. You became emotionally trapped between fear of failure and fear of letting go. Even your prayers became heavy because underneath them was the belief that your worth depended on whether certain dreams survive. Come closer to me now and loosen your grip on the outcomes you still obsess over privately. Stop measuring your value through achievements, approval, or visible progress alone. Your identity was never supposed to rise and fall based on temporary circumstances. You are more than your plans succeeding or failing. You are more than the relationships that stayed or left. Let your spirit rest from carrying the impossible responsibility of controlling every detail of your future. I know watching those plans collapse hurt deeply. Some endings felt like earthquakes shaking your confidence from the inside out. But those painful moments exposed where your heart had become dependent on things that could never fully sustain you. They revealed fears, insecurities, and emotional attachments that needed healing before deeper peace could grow inside you. Now I want you to trust me enough to rebuild your foundation differently. Stop chasing identity through outcomes that change constantly. Build your peace somewhere deeper. Let your worth rest in my presence instead of unstable circumstances. The plans that fell apart did not destroy your future. Some of them simply removed the false foundations your soul had been standing on for too long. And even now, I am teaching you how to stand steady without fear controlling every step of your journey. My child, you have judged yourself too harshly during difficult seasons. You believed strong faith meant never feeling afraid, never doubting, never becoming emotionally exhausted. Whenever your heart felt overwhelmed, you immediately assumed you were failing spiritually. But I want you to look honestly at everything you survived. Even during your weakest moments, you kept going. You may not have moved forward perfectly, confidently, or without tears, but you still moved. That mattered more than you realized. There were nights when your mind became so heavy with fear and overthinking that you barely knew how to pray anymore. Some mornings you woke up emotionally drained before the day even started. You questioned your future, your strength, and sometimes even whether your life was truly changing at all. Yet despite all of that, something inside you kept reaching for hope. Something inside you refused to completely give up. That was not weakness. That was evidence of my hand still holding your spirit together quietly beneath the surface. You kept expecting yourself to feel spiritually powerful every day, but faith often looks much quieter than you imagined. Sometimes faith is simply getting out of bed while carrying emotional pain nobody else can see. Sometimes faith is continuing to trust me even when your heart feels tired from waiting. Sometimes faith is breathing through another difficult day instead of surrendering completely to despair. You underestimated the courage it took for your spirit to keep moving while carrying so much invisible weight. Come sit with me now and stop condemning yourself for struggling. You are human, and your heart has endured more pressure than many people around you fully understand. I never demanded flawless emotional strength from you. I stayed with you through every anxious thought, every fearful prayer, every moment when your faith felt fragile instead of fearless. I want you to notice something important now. The fact that you are still searching for healing, still seeking peace, still listening for my voice after everything you survived already reveals that your faith never truly died. It bent under pressure sometimes. It became tired. It became winded. But it did not disappear. So release the shame you keep carrying about your weaker seasons. Stop comparing your spiritual journey to polished versions of other people's lives. Your growth has been happening in hidden ways. Every difficult step you took while feeling uncertain still mattered deeply. Now breathe slowly and let your heart rest for a moment. You do not need to perform perfect strength to remain close to me. I have been carrying you more than you realize. And even during the moments when you felt barely able to continue, my presence was quietly giving your spirit enough strength to keep moving forward one day at a time. My child, there was a time when your sense of worth could change completely based on how people responded to you. A kind message could lift your spirit for hours, while silence or rejection could leave you questioning yourself deeply. You searched constantly for signs that you mattered. You looked for reassurance in conversations, attention, approval, and emotional validation because part of you feared you were not enough on your own. I watched how exhausting that became for your heart. You carried invisible pressure every day trying to maintain acceptance from people around you. Sometimes you changed parts of yourself just to avoid disappointing others. Sometimes you stayed quiet when your spirit needed honesty because you were afraid conflict would make people leave. Without fully realizing it, you slowly built your identity around being needed, liked, or approved of by others. But that kind of security never lasts long because human approval changes quickly. One moment people celebrate you. The next moment they misunderstand you completely. That instability kept your heart anxious. You became overly sensitive to shifts in tone, distance, or criticism because your emotional peace depended too heavily on external reassurance. I know you did not choose that intentionally. You simply wanted to feel safe emotionally. You wanted confirmation that you were loved, valuable, and enough. But look at what is happening inside you now. Slowly, quietly, your spirit is changing. You are beginning to recognize that your worth cannot remain chained to temporary opinions forever. Some days you still struggle with insecurity, but you are no longer completely controlled by it the way you once were. You are learning how to stay grounded even when people fail to fully understand you. Come closer to me now and stop measuring your value through inconsistent human reactions. Rest your spirit here for a moment. Let me remind you who you are without the noise of outside approval constantly shaping your identity. You do not need to earn the right to exist peacefully. You do not need to perform constantly to deserve love. I want you to notice how freeing it feels when your peace no longer depends entirely on other people's attention. That freedom is part of your healing. You are becoming emotionally steadier because your foundation is shifting deeper than public validation. You are learning how to trust my view of you more than every passing opinion around you. So release the exhausting need to constantly prove yourself. Stop chasing reassurance from people who are still struggling to understand themselves. Let your heart settle into something stronger now. You are already worthy before achievements, before applause, before recognition. And the more you begin believing that deeply, the less power the world will have to control your peace through acceptance or rejection. My child, now that your worth is no longer chained completely to human approval, I want you to understand something deeper. Your life carries the power to help restore hope in others who still feel unseen and forgotten. There are people who will click on this message at the exact moment I know they are ready to see it, and your support helps keep this river of truth flowing into hearts desperate for peace. I declare over you what is written in 2 Corinthians 9:8. I am able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things at all times you will abound in every good work. Every super thanks, every membership, and every PayPal gift through the link in the description becomes part of a harvest reaching souls across nations. This is not merely support for a channel. This is participation in spreading my living word to those standing in emotional darkness searching for light. As you sow generously, I will release fresh favor, unexpected provision, and supernatural peace over your household. Do not allow hesitation to silence the compassion I placed inside you for this moment. Act now, give with faith, and help me carry this message to the people who are waiting for healing. My child, there are pains you carried so quietly that even the people closest to you never fully understood them. Some wounds were hidden beneath your smile for years. You learned how to function while secretly feeling emotionally bruised inside. Life taught you how to keep moving even when your spirit felt tired, disappointed, or lonely. Over time, you became skilled at hiding what hurt because you feared being misunderstood, dismissed, or becoming a burden to others. But I saw every hidden wound clearly. I noticed the sadness behind your forced strength. I saw how certain memories still affected your confidence long after everyone else forgot about them. Some experiences left deeper marks on your spirit than you ever admitted aloud. Harsh words, rejection, betrayal, emotional neglect, disappointment. All of it settled into places inside you that quietly shaped how you viewed yourself and others. You adapted to pain in ways you did not even recognize at first. You became guarded in situations where your heart once felt open. You overthought conversations because you feared being hurt again. You sometimes pushed people away emotionally before they could disappoint you. Other times you accepted less than you deserved because part of you questioned your own worth, quietly beneath the surface. Those patterns did not appear randomly. They grew from wounds your soul never fully healed from. Come sit with me honestly now. Stop pretending those hidden hurts no longer affect you. Bring me the memories you still avoid thinking about. Let your spirit acknowledge the places where fear, shame, or insecurity still linger quietly. Healing begins when your heart stops running from its own pain. You may not realize it, but I have already, in restoring parts of you slowly during this season. Certain reactions no longer control you the same way they once did. Some emotional triggers are losing their power gradually. Your heart is becoming softer again in places where pain once hardened it completely. But healing is happening even when you cannot fully measure it yet. I know you sometimes become frustrated because complete healing feels slower than you expected. But deep wounds heal carefully, not instantly. I am rebuilding trust inside you layer by layer. I am teaching your heart how to feel safe again without constantly expecting pain around every corner. Now breathe deeply and let yourself receive that healing instead of resisting it. Stop calling yourself broken simply because you still carry scars. Healing does not erase your story. It transforms the way your story controls your spirit. And even now, while you are still learning how to trust peace again, I am gently restoring hidden places inside your heart that nobody else ever fully saw except me. My child, there was a time when you believed the breakthrough itself would be the most important part of your story. You thought the answered prayer, the open door, the restored relationship, or the long-awaited opportunity would finally change everything inside you. But what truly transformed your heart was not the destination you kept focusing on. It was the waiting. It was the long stretch of uncertainty where you had no choice but to confront who you were becoming beneath all your expectations. I know how difficult that season felt for you. Waiting exhausted your emotions in ways other people rarely understood. You smiled and said you were trusting me, but privately you wrestled with frustration, fear, disappointment, and confusion. Some days you felt hopeful. Other days your spirit felt heavy from carrying unanswered questions for so long. You wondered why things moved so slowly while other people's lives seemed to accelerate around you. That comparison quietly wounded your heart more than you admitted aloud. But pause for a moment and look at what the waiting actually produced inside you. Before this season, you depended heavily on visible results to feel secure. Your peace disappeared anytime life became uncertain. Yet slowly, through delay after delay, your spirit began learning how to survive without immediate reassurance. You became more patient, more reflective, more emotionally aware. The waiting exposed insecurities that success would have hidden from you. It revealed fears you needed to heal from before the next chapter of your life could truly sustain peace inside your heart. Come closer to me now and stop treating the waiting season as wasted time. It was holy ground, even when it felt lonely. Some of your deepest spiritual growth happened there quietly beneath the surface while you thought nothing was changing. I was strengthening your character in places where comfort alone never could have reached you. I was teaching you how to trust me without constantly needing visible proof every moment. You are not the same person who first entered this season. Back then, urgency controlled much of your thinking. You chased answers quickly because silence frightened you. Now your spirit is steadier. You listen more carefully. You recognize emotional patterns more honestly. That transformation matters more deeply than you realize. So release the bitterness you still carry toward delayed timing. Stop viewing the waiting only through the lens of frustration. Some blessings arrive quickly and disappear just as fast. But what I built inside you during this season will remain long after temporary excitement fades away. Now breathe slowly and let your heart appreciate how far you have come emotionally. The waiting was not empty. It shaped you carefully. And one day you will fully understand that the person you became during the process was an even greater gift than the thing you were waiting to receive. My child, When you first began praying for certain things, your heart was carrying emotions you barely understood yourself. You were hurting deeply in ways you struggled to explain clearly. Some prayers came from fear. Some came from loneliness. Some came from exhaustion after trying to hold yourself together for too long. You begged for answers, relief, direction, and peace because your spirit felt overwhelmed by everything happening around you at the time. But look at yourself carefully now. You are not standing in the same emotional place anymore. Life has changed you. Pain changed you. Healing changed you. Even the waiting changed you. The person who first cried those desperate prayers had different fears, different attachments, and different ways of seeing the world. At that time, you often believed immediate relief would solve everything. Now you understand how much deeper true healing really goes. You have become more self-aware through these seasons. You recognize emotional patterns that once controlled you without question. You notice when fear starts influencing your decisions. You are more honest about your needs, your exhaustion, and your limits now. That growth came through difficult experiences you once wished would disappear immediately. Some of the lessons that frustrated you most became the very things that reshaped your spirit quietly over time. Come sit with me for a moment and acknowledge how far your heart has already traveled emotionally. Stop speaking about yourself as though nothing inside you has changed. I have watched you become more compassionate, more discerning, and more spiritually grounded through every difficult chapter you survive. The healing may still feel incomplete sometimes, but your soul is no longer where it used to be. There are prayers you once prayed that you now understand differently because your perspective has matured. Some desires faded as your spirit healed. Some fears lost their grip on you slowly. Some things you once considered unbearable no longer control your peace the same way. That is evidence of transformation happening inside you, even if your life still feels unfinished in certain areas. Now I want you to stop measuring growth only through external success. Real change often happens internally long before circumstances fully reflect it. Trust the quiet work I have been doing within your heart. Trust the wisdom that has developed through your struggles. Trust the emotional strength that formed while you thought you were simply surviving. You are becoming someone different from the person who first entered this season. More honest, more grounded, more capable of carrying peace without constantly depending on temporary reassurance. And even now, I am continuing that transformation gently, patiently, and intentionally inside every hidden part of your spirit. My child, there were seasons when you demanded explanations for everything that hurt you. You wanted immediate understanding because you believed clarity would instantly remove your pain. When relationships ended, when opportunities disappeared, when prayers seemed delayed, your heart kept asking why. You replayed situations over and over in your mind, trying to force answers out of experiences that still carried too much emotion inside you. But at the time, your spirit was not ready to see certain truths clearly yet. Some truths become dangerous when received through unresolved pain. If I had revealed certain things too early, bitterness would have taken root inside your heart instead of wisdom. You would have focused only on who hurt you, who failed you, or what you lost. Your emotions would have distorted the lesson because your wounds were still too raw. That is why some understanding only arrives after healing begins softening the places inside you that once reacted entirely through fear, anger, or disappointment. Look at how differently you view certain situations now compared to before. Some people you once blamed completely, you now understand with more compassion and emotional maturity. Some experiences that once felt unfair now reveal lessons you desperately needed at the time, even if they hurt deeply. That shift did not happen because your story changed. It happened because your spirit changed. Come sit with me quietly and allow your heart to release the bitterness you still carry from unanswered questions. Stop forcing yourself to fully understand every painful chapter immediately. Some truths unfold slowly because your soul needs time to become emotionally stable enough to receive them without resentment destroying your peace. You are beginning to recognize that healing changes perspective. The more your spirit matures, the more clearly you can see your life without emotional chaos controlling every conclusion. You no longer react the same way to certain memories because wisdom has started replacing emotional survival inside you. That transformation matters deeply. I know there are still things you do not fully understand yet. Some parts of your journey still feel unfinished, confusing, or painful. But trust me enough to believe that clarity often arrives gradually, not all at once. Keep your heart open instead of defensive. Let your spirit remain teachable instead of hardened by disappointment. Now breathe slowly and stop demanding complete explanations for every wound before allowing yourself to move forward peacefully. Some answers will come later, when your heart is ready to hold them with grace instead of bitterness. And when that understanding finally arrives, you will realize that many things you once questioned were shaping your spirit far more carefully than you could recognize at the time. Child, as your spirit matures and your heart learns to carry truth without bitterness, I am also awakening you to another truth. This message is reaching souls who are barely holding on. There are weary hearts scrolling in silence, praying for one sign that I still see them, and I am using this very word as oil poured into their darkness. When you sow through Super Thanks, membership, or through the PayPal link in the description, you are not simply giving money. You are placing bread into the hands of hurting people I am calling back to life. Have I not said, cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days? I am breathing upon every seed released with obedience and compassion. The enemy wanted many of these souls to remain trapped in confusion, but your support helps carry my light into places fear tried to dominate. Do not ignore the stirring you feel right now, because this is not coincidence. This is a divine invitation. So now, support this mission immediately and watch how I multiply peace, provision, and favor over your life in return. My child, you spent so much time expecting peace to arrive through sudden breakthroughs, dramatic changes, or perfect circumstances. You believed everything around you needed to finally fall into place before your heart could truly rest. You waited for the big moment that would erase your fear, silence your overthinking, and remove every source of uncertainty from your life. But while you kept searching for dramatic relief, I was teaching your spirit something much deeper. Real peace rarely enters your life through noise and excitement alone. Most of the time, it arrives quietly. It grows slowly inside your heart while circumstances are still imperfect. It appears in small moments where your spirit finally stops fighting itself constantly. You may not even recognize it at first because it feels different from emotional excitement. It is calmer than that. Steadier, less dramatic, but far more lasting. I know you became addicted to emotional intensity in ways you did not fully notice. Chaos felt familiar to you. Overthinking became normal. Constant emotional stimulation distracted you from deeper wounds that still needed healing. When life became quiet, your mind sometimes searched for new reasons to worry because peace felt unfamiliar after carrying anxiety for so long. But I have been teaching your heart how to rest differently now. Come closer to me and pay attention to the quieter changes happening inside your spirit. Notice how some things that once triggered fear no longer affect you as strongly. Notice how your mind sometimes pauses before immediately spiraling into panic the way it once did. Notice the moments when your soul feels calm even while unanswered questions still exist around you. That is peace beginning to grow. Do not overlook these quieter forms of healing simply because they are not dramatic. Some of the deepest transformations happen gently beneath the surface while your life still looks ordinary from the outside. I'm teaching you how to remain grounded without needing constant emotional highs to feel secure. Stop chasing chaos disguised as passion. Stop confusing emotional intensity with spiritual depth. Some things that excited you in the past were actually exhausting your spirit slowly. Peace feels different because it allows your soul to breathe instead of constantly surviving under pressure. Now slow down for a moment and let yourself receive that quiet peace instead of resisting it. You do not need every problem solved immediately to begin resting internally. Let your spirit become familiar with calm again. The peace I am building inside you may not always arrive loudly, but it will hold your heart together far more deeply than temporary excitement ever could. My child, there were earlier seasons when you would have heard these same words differently. You might have rushed past them, doubted them immediately, or tried to protect yourself emotionally from what they were asking you to confront. But something inside you has changed now. Life has softened certain defenses you once held tightly. Experiences you never expected forced your heart into deeper reflection. And without fully realizing it, you became more willing to face truth honestly instead of constantly avoiding it through distraction, denial, or emotional survival. I know how much resistance once lived inside your spirit. Some of it came from fear. Some came from disappointment. Some came from exhaustion after carrying too many unanswered questions for too long. You built walls quietly because vulnerability felt dangerous to you. Trust felt risky. Opening your heart fully felt like an invitation to pain. So you learned how to protect yourself emotionally even while telling yourself you were fine. But protection slowly became isolation. You carried burdens privately that were slowly exhausting your spirit. You kept trying to handle everything through your own understanding, while your heart quietly longed for peace deeper than temporary distractions could provide. That inner tension is part of what brought you here now. Come closer to me for a moment and stop resisting what your soul already knows. Stop pushing away the deeper conversations your spirit has been trying to have with you lately. You have felt the stirring inside yourself. You have noticed the growing awareness that some parts of your life can no longer continue the way they once did. That awareness is not random. I have been gently opening your heart through every difficult season you survived. You are finally becoming honest about your exhaustion, honest about your fears, honest about the ways you tried to fill deeper emotional needs through temporary things that never truly satisfied your soul. That honesty matters because healing cannot grow where denial continues controlling the heart. I want you to stop seeing this moment as coincidence. Pay attention carefully to what your spirit is feeling right now. There is a reason these words are reaching you differently than before. You are more emotionally aware now, more spiritually sensitive, more willing to listen instead of immediately running back into noise and distraction. Do not close your heart again out of fear. Stay here with me. Let this moment settle deeply inside you instead of rushing past it. Your life is not ending because you are finally facing truth honestly. Your healing is beginning more deeply than before. Now breathe slowly and allow yourself to receive what your soul has been resisting for so long. You are not weak for needing guidance. You are not failing because you still have wounds. You are simply becoming ready to receive truth with an open heart instead of a guarded one. And that openness is creating space for deeper peace to finally grow within you. My child, there were moments when your heart became so tired that giving up felt easier than continuing forward. You reached emotional limits that nobody around you fully understood. Some days you carried disappointment so quietly that even the people closest to you never realized how close you were to breaking internally. You kept functioning outwardly while inwardly wondering how much longer you could continue carrying so much invisible weight. I saw every one of those moments clearly. I saw the nights when your thoughts became heavy with fear and hopelessness. I saw the mornings when simply getting out of bed felt emotionally exhausting. There were times when your spirit became so discouraged that you stopped expecting life to improve at all. You questioned your future. You questioned your strength. Sometimes you even questioned whether your prayers still mattered after waiting so long for answers. But despite all of that, something inside you refused to fully surrender to despair. Even during your darkest moments, there was still a quiet part of your spirit asking you to keep going a little longer. You may have thought it was stubbornness, survival instinct, or habit. But it was me staying near you when your strength felt almost gone. Come sit with me now and stop overlooking how much courage it took for you to survive those seasons. You keep minimizing your endurance because you compare yourself to people who seem stronger on the surface. But I know the battles you fought privately. I know how hard it was for you to keep moving while carrying emotional pain nobody else could fully see. You did not survive by your own strength alone. There were moments when my presence was holding your spirit together more than you realized. That quiet urge to try one more day, to breathe through one more difficult night, to keep searching for healing instead of fully shutting down, that was not an accident. I was protecting the small remaining hope inside you even when your emotions felt completely drained. Now I want you to stop speaking about yourself as though you are weak simply because you struggled deeply. Some of the strongest growth in your life happened during seasons where you felt emotionally fragile. Strength is not the absence of pain. Sometimes strength is simply continuing forward while your heart is still healing. So stay close to me now. Do not return to isolation just because fear still whispers sometimes. Let your spirit rest instead of carrying every burden alone again. You made it through moments you once thought would destroy you completely. And the reason you are still here today is because I never stopped holding on to you, even during the times when you felt too exhausted to hold on to yourself. My child, there was a time when you did not fully understand how much pain people could hide behind ordinary smiles. Before your own struggles deepened, you often looked at others through surface-level understanding. But life changed that. Your wounds opened your eyes in ways comfort never could. After carrying your own hidden battles, you began noticing sadness in voices, exhaustion in silence, and loneliness behind forced laughter. The pain you survived softened your heart toward people who are quietly trying to hold themselves together every day. I know there were moments when you wished certain experiences had never happened to you. Some wounds still ache when you think about them too long. You question why life needed to become so emotionally heavy at times. But look carefully at what grew inside your spirit because of those painful seasons. You became gentler with broken people, more patient with weakness, more aware that not every battle is visible from the outside. Before, you sometimes expected yourself and others to recover quickly from emotional pain. Now you understand healing moves slowly. You know how exhausting it feels to carry invisible burdens while trying to function normally in front of the world. That understanding changed the way you respond to people. You became more careful with your words because you know how deeply certain sentences can wound someone already struggling internally. Come closer to me now and stop despising every scar you carry. Some of those scars taught your heart how to love more deeply. They taught you how to sit beside hurting people without judging them for not healing faster. They taught you how to recognize silent suffering in ways that emotional comfort alone never would have taught you. I want you to notice something important. Your compassion is not weakness. Your sensitivity is not something to be ashamed of. The world often praises hardness, emotional distance, and self-protection, but I have been shaping your spirit differently. I have been teaching you how to remain soft without becoming fragile, how to care deeply without losing yourself completely. Do not close your heart now simply because pain once entered through it. Keep bringing your wounds to me instead of hardening yourself against the world. Let your experiences continue producing wisdom instead of bitterness. There are people you will one day comfort simply because you understand what silent suffering feels like personally. And now take a deep breath and let your heart rest for a moment. Stop viewing your painful seasons only through the lens of loss. Some of your greatest growth came through the empathy those wounds created inside you. And even now, while you are still healing yourself, I am using your experiences to shape a heart capable of bringing gentleness, understanding, and quiet hope into the lives of people who desperately need it. My child, the compassion your wounds created inside you was never meant to stop with your own healing. I have allowed you to recognize silent suffering because I am calling you to help reach others who are drowning quietly behind their smiles. Every super thanks, every membership, and every gift sent through the PayPal link in the description becomes part of a river of healing flowing toward broken hearts across the world. Some are hearing my voice again for the first time in years because faithful people chose to sow instead of remaining passive. Did I not say, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy"? The kindness you release today will return to you pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing in ways you cannot yet see. This is not merely support for a channel. This is participation in the harvest of wounded souls being restored by my presence. Do not delay what I am prompting your heart to do. Give now, stand with this mission, and become part of the healing I am pouring into lives at this very moment. My child, you spend so much of your life trying to feel safe by controlling outcomes. You searched constantly for certainty because uncertainty made your heart anxious. You wanted guarantees about relationships, finances, opportunities, and the future because you believed control would protect you from pain. Whenever life became unclear, fear immediately rushed into your thoughts. You tried to solve every possibility before it even happened, hoping preparation could somehow prevent disappointment from reaching you again. I understand why your heart learned to operate that way. Ben taught you to become cautious. Unexpected losses taught you to brace yourself emotionally before trusting fully. But over time, your need for certainty slowly became exhausting. You carried pressure your spirit was never designed to carry. You kept trying to control outcomes that only I could fully see clearly. That is why I allowed certain seasons where answers became limited and the future felt unclear. I know those seasons frightened you deeply. You kept asking me for immediate direction while your mind desperately searched for stability. But if you always had complete certainty, you would never truly learn surrender. You would trust your own ability to predict life more than my ability to guide you through it. Come sit with me quietly now and loosen your grip on the future you keep trying to control. Stop forcing yourself to solve every unanswered question immediately. Your spirit becomes exhausted when fear convinces you that peace can only exist after complete certainty arrives. That is not peace. That is emotional dependence on control. You are learning something important now. Real trust grows strongest when clarity feels incomplete. During uncertain seasons, your heart slowly begins discovering whether it can rest in my presence without visible guarantees surrounding every step ahead. That process feels uncomfortable because surrender always challenges fear. I know uncertainty still affects you sometimes. Your mind still wants answers quickly. Your emotions still search for reassurance about what comes next. But notice how much stronger your spirit has already become through these seasons. You are more patient than before, more willing to pause before reacting, more aware that not every unanswered question automatically means disaster is coming. Now breathe slowly and let yourself release the impossible responsibility of controlling your entire future. You were never meant to carry that burden alone. Trust me enough to take the next step without needing every outcome explained first. I am guiding your life more carefully than you realize, even during moments where the road ahead still feels uncertain to you. Do not fear the unknown so deeply that you miss the peace available to you today. I am already standing in the future you are worried about, and I will still be there, holding you, guiding you, and strengthening your spirit one step at a time. My child, fear has followed you quietly for longer than you realize. Sometimes it spoke loudly through anxiety and overthinking. Other times it hid itself behind caution, hesitation, and the constant need to prepare for worst-case scenarios before life even unfolded. You became so accustomed to carrying fear that part of you started believing it was normal to feel emotionally tense all the time. Your mind rarely rested completely because it was always trying to predict what might go wrong next. I know why your heart learned that pattern. Disappointment taught you to expect sudden pain. Broken trust taught you to guard yourself carefully. Certain experiences made you believe staying worried would somehow protect you from future hurt. But fear never truly protected your peace. It only drained your spirit slowly while convincing you it was helping you survive. Look honestly at how much energy fear has already taken from your life. It stole joy from moments that were meant to be peaceful because your mind stayed focused on what could eventually fall apart. It made you question your worth during seasons when you should have been resting in my love. It kept you emotionally exhausted because you carried imaginary battles before they even arrived. Fear turned your thoughts into prisons at times, and I know how heavy that became for your heart. Come sit with me now and release the burden of constantly trying to protect yourself through anxiety. Stop carrying tomorrow's problems before tomorrow even arrives. Breathe slowly for a moment. Let your spirit feel what it is like to exist without immediately searching for danger around every corner. You were never meant to live trapped inside constant emotional survival mode. I am not asking you to ignore wisdom or pretend life never contains difficulty. I am asking you to stop letting fear become the voice that controls your decisions, your peace, and your identity. Fear keeps your spirit small. It convinces you to avoid healing because vulnerability feels risky. It convinces you to avoid trusting because disappointment once wounded you deeply. But if fear continues leading your life, your soul will remain exhausted no matter how carefully you try protecting yourself. You are beginning to recognize this now. You are noticing how much emotional freedom disappears when your thoughts constantly revolve around worry. That awareness is part of your healing. It means your spirit is waking up to the possibility of living differently. Now place those anxious thoughts into my hands instead of carrying them alone another day. Let me teach your heart how to trust again without fear controlling every step. Peace becomes possible when your soul stops demanding complete certainty before allowing itself to rest. You do not need to predict every outcome to remain safe in my care. I have carried you through seasons you once thought would destroy you completely. Trust that I will continue guiding you through what comes next without fear needing to dominate your life anymore. My child, there were many moments when you quietly felt invisible. You looked around and wondered why others seemed more appreciated, more celebrated, or more easily loved than you. Sometimes you compared your life so often that you stopped noticing your own worth entirely. You became deeply aware of who ignored you, who misunderstood you, and who failed to recognize the good inside your heart. Over time, those experiences created quiet insecurity within you that affected far more of your life than you realized. You started believing your value depended on whether people noticed you. If someone appreciated your efforts, you felt worthy for a moment. If people overlooked you, your confidence collapsed quickly. That emotional dependence became exhausting because human attention is inconsistent. Some people were too distracted by their own struggles to fully see your heart clearly, yet you kept interpreting their limitations as proof that something was wrong with you. I watched how often you diminished yourself internally while trying to appear confident outwardly. You questioned whether you mattered enough, whether your presence made any real difference, whether your life carried significance beyond temporary responsibilities and routines. Those thoughts wounded your spirit more deeply than you admitted aloud. Come closer to me now and stop measuring your worth through the narrow vision of people who cannot fully see you the way I do. Let your heart rest from constantly searching for external proof that you matter. You were valuable before recognition ever entered your life. You were worthy before applause, attention, or approval ever touched your hands. I have been rebuilding your identity quietly during this season. You are starting to recognize strengths within yourself that you once ignored completely. You are becoming more comfortable with your own presence instead of constantly needing reassurance from others to feel secure emotionally. That growth matters deeply because it is teaching your spirit how to stand without depending entirely on outside validation. And notice how your heart responds differently now when certain people fail to understand you. Their rejection still hurts sometimes, but it no longer destroys your sense of self the way it once did. That is healing happening inside you. Your identity is becoming rooted more deeply than public recognition alone. Now stop shrinking yourself emotionally just because some people failed to appreciate your value properly. Stop speaking to yourself through the language of rejection. Listen carefully to my voice instead. You are not ordinary in my eyes. Your kindness matters. Your perseverance matters. Your heart matters. Let yourself believe that fully now. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because your spirit is finally beginning to see yourself through my eyes instead of through the wounds created by people who overlooked you before. My child, you have spent too much of your life believing you needed to become perfect before you could feel close to me again. You carried quiet shame over your mistakes, your doubts, your emotional struggles, and the parts of yourself you wished were stronger by now. Sometimes you avoided coming fully into my presence because you felt spiritually inadequate. You thought I was waiting for you to finally fix yourself completely before I would welcome you fully. But that was never my heart toward you. I saw you trying so hard to hold yourself together. I watched you become frustrated with your own weaknesses. You expected yourself to heal quickly, think clearly, trust perfectly, and never struggle emotionally again after certain lessons. Whenever you failed to meet those impossible expectations, disappointment settled heavily into your spirit. You judged yourself more harshly than I ever did. Come sit with me honestly now and stop hiding behind performance. I never asked you to pretend you had everything figured out. I never demanded flawless faith from you before offering my love. What I wanted was your honesty, your openness, your willingness to keep walking with me even while carrying unanswered questions and unfinished healing inside your heart. There were moments when your prayers sounded messy, uncertain, and emotionally exhausted. Yet those moments often brought you closer to me than polished words ever could. Real surrender begins when your soul stops pretending. It begins when you finally admit where you feel weak, afraid, confused, or tired instead of constantly trying to appear spiritually strong. You are human, my child. Your journey was never designed to be perfect. Growth happens slowly. Healing happens in layers. Some days your faith feels steady, while other days your emotions become heavy again. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are still growing through the process honestly instead of pretending pain no longer affects you. I want you to release the exhausting pressure to earn my love through perfection. Stop measuring your spiritual worth through impossible standards. Come to me exactly as you are right now. Bring me the unfinished parts of your healing. Bring me the fears you still wrestle with privately. Bring me the questions you still carry in silence. You do not need to become flawless before allowing yourself to rest in my presence. I already know every hidden part of your heart completely, and I have not turned away from you. What matters is your willingness to keep returning to me instead of running deeper into isolation when you struggle. Now breathe slowly and let your spirit rest from constant self-condemnation. You are still deeply loved while healing. You are still wanted while growing. And even during moments when confusion remains, your willingness to keep walking with me matters more than perfection ever could. My child, I never asked you for perfection before using your life for my glory, and I am not asking for perfection before you help carry my word to others either. Some people listening to this message feel too broken to believe I still want them, yet I am reaching for them through every word spoken here. When you gave through Super Thanks, become a member, or so through the PayPal link in the description, you are helping keep a lamp burning for souls wandering through spiritual exhaustion and shame. Remember when I said, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." That promise is alive even now, and I am using imperfect but willing hearts to spread hope across the earth. Your seed becomes oil for the lamp, manna for the weary, and rain upon dry ground where faith almost died. Do not underestimate what one act of obedience can unlock in another person's life. Act now, support this mission boldly, and trust me to bless your faithfulness with supernatural provision, protection, and peace. My child, there were many moments when you became frustrated waiting for prayers that seemed delayed far longer than you expected. You wondered why certain doors did not open sooner. You questioned why opportunities, healing, relationships, or breakthroughs seemed to arrive more slowly for you than for others. Sometimes the waiting felt personal, as though I was withholding good things from your life unfairly. But there were deeper reasons beneath that timing that your heart could not fully understand yet. You were asking for things that carried responsibility beyond what you could see at the time. You focused mostly on the blessing itself, but I was paying attention to the condition of your spirit that would eventually carry that blessing. Some parts of your character still needed strengthening before your heart could sustain what you were praying for without losing peace, humility, or emotional stability along the way. I know that truth is difficult to accept sometimes. Waiting often feels painful because your emotions naturally focus on what is missing. But look honestly at who you were when you first began praying compared to who you are becoming now. Back then, certain insecurities controlled your decisions more strongly. Fear influenced your reactions more deeply. Emotional wounds still shaped your understanding of yourself and others in ways you could not fully recognize. The waiting season slowed you down long enough to confront those hidden areas honestly. It taught you patience where urgency once ruled your thoughts. It taught you discernment where emotional impulse once guided your choices. It taught you how to seek peace instead of constantly chasing validation and control. Those lessons were not separate from the blessing you were asking for. They were preparing you to carry it differently. Come closer to me now and stop interpreting every delay as rejection. Some timing felt slow because your soul needed room to mature first. If certain things had entered your life too early, they might have amplified your wounds instead of healing them. You would have carried old emotional patterns into new blessings, and eventually those unresolved struggles would have stolen your peace. I want you to trust the work I have been doing inside your heart during this process. Growth that happens deeply often happens gradually. Character built carefully lasts longer than temporary excitement that arrives too quickly without foundation beneath it. Now release the bitterness you still carry toward delayed answers. Stop comparing your timeline to everyone else's journey. Your story is being shaped intentionally, not carelessly. I have never forgotten the prayers you cried through tears, exhaustion, and hope. Some answers simply required your spirit to become stronger, steadier, and wiser before fully stepping into the life you once begged me to give you. My child, you fought hard to avoid pain for a long time. You tried to stay strong, composed, and emotionally guarded because brokenness frightened you deeply. You thought if you could control your emotions carefully enough, stay prepared enough, or protect your heart enough, then maybe life would hurt less, But despite all your efforts, there were seasons that still shattered parts of you. Certain disappointments broke your confidence. Certain betrayal broke your trust. Certain losses broke the version of life you thought you were supposed to have. I know how uncomfortable that brokenness felt. You hated feeling vulnerable. You hated crying over things you thought you should have already healed from. Some nights you felt embarrassed by your own emotions because your pain exposed how deeply certain experiences affected your spirit. You wanted healing to happen quickly so you could return to feeling emotionally in control again. But brokenness was doing something inside you that comfort never could have accomplished. Before those painful seasons, you often hid behind emotional masks without fully realizing it. You learned how to appear okay while avoiding deeper honesty about your fears, insecurities, and wounds. But brokenness stripped away some of those defenses. It forced your heart into honesty. It revealed how deeply you needed grace, rest, healing, and my presence in ways you never understood before. Come sit with me now and stop despising every season that cracked your heart open. Some of your deepest spiritual growth entered your life through places where pride, control, and emotional pretending finally broke apart. Pain softened your spirit toward people who struggle quietly. It made you more patient with weakness, more aware of hidden suffering, and more compassionate toward those carrying invisible burdens. You are more real now than before, more emotionally honest, more willing to admit when your heart feels tired or uncertain. The transformation matters deeply because authenticity creates space for genuine healing. Before, you often tried to survive by appearing unaffected. Now your spirit is learning how to heal through honesty instead of emotional performance. I know some scars still ache when certain memories return. But do not view your brokenness only through the lens of damage. Some things had to break in order for deeper healing to begin growing inside you. The walls around your heart became thinner. Your compassion became stronger. Your dependence on me became more genuine. Now breathe deeply and stop trying to erase every painful part of your story. Bring those broken places closer to me instead of hiding them in shame. I am not repelled by your wounds. I have been using them carefully to shape a heart that is softer, wiser, and more capable of loving deeply than before. And even now, I am still restoring beauty inside places that once felt permanently shattered. My child, you have probably noticed lately that something inside you no longer feels exactly the same. Certain things that once consumed your attention now feel strangely empty. Some conversations drain you faster than before. Some habits, environments, and emotional patterns no longer fit your spirit the way they once did. At times, this change has confused you because your external life may still look unfinished or uncertain, yet inwardly something deeper is shifting quietly. I have been working inside your heart long before visible circumstances fully change around you. Human eyes often focus only on external breakthroughs, but I begin transformation much deeper than that. I start within your spirit. I reshape the way you think, the way you respond emotionally, the way you understand yourself, and the way you seek peace. Those internal changes may feel subtle at first, but they are preparing you for the life ahead more than you realize. You used to tolerate things that now disturb your spirit. You once ignored emotional exhaustion because you believed survival required constant sacrifice. You once chased validation from people who could never truly satisfy your deeper need for peace. But now your heart reacts differently. Your spirit has become more sensitive to what drains you emotionally and spiritually. That awareness is not weakness. It is growth. Come sit with me quietly for a moment and pay attention to these internal shifts instead of dismissing them. Stop assuming nothing is happening simply because every prayer has not yet visibly unfolded around you. Some of the most important transformation in your life is already taking place beneath the surface. I am changing your desires, your priorities, your boundaries, and your understanding of peace before changing certain external situations. You are becoming more emotionally honest now, more protective of your peace, more willing to walk away from environments that constantly wound your spirit. That growth matters because your future cannot be sustained by the same patterns that exhausted your heart in the past. I know this season can feel uncomfortable because inner growth often creates distance between you and old versions of yourself. Some people may not fully understand the changes happening inside you. Even you may struggle to explain them sometimes. But trust what your spirit is sensing. I am guiding you carefully through this transformation. Now stop rushing the process. Let your inner life continue healing and maturing without demanding instant external results. Lasting peace grows from within before it fully reshapes your circumstances outwardly. And while you keep wondering why you feel different lately, I want you to recognize something beautiful. Your soul is becoming more aligned with the peace, wisdom, and emotional freedom I have been preparing for you all along. My child, there was a season when you carried every disagreement, every misunderstanding, and every criticism as though it defined your value completely. You spent enormous emotional energy trying to explain yourself to people who had already decided not to understand you. You replayed conversations repeatedly in your mind, searching for better responses, better explanations, better ways to make others see your heart correctly. But constant emotional fighting exhausted your spirit far more than you realized. You believed that defending yourself constantly would finally bring peace, but instead it created deeper emotional fatigue. Every opinion began feeling important. Every rejection felt personal. Every conflict pulled your thoughts into endless overthinking because your heart still depended heavily on external approval. I saw how quickly criticism could shake your confidence, even when you pretended it did not affect you outwardly. But something inside you is changing now. You are beginning to realize that not every misunderstanding requires your energy. Some people are committed to seeing you through their own wounds, assumptions, or limitations, no matter how honestly you speak. You cannot force clarity into hearts that are unwilling to receive it. And you cannot sacrifice your peace every time someone chooses not to understand your intentions fully. Come closer to me now and stop carrying emotional battles that were never yours to fight alone. Release the exhausting need to correct every false perception. Let some conversations end without endlessly defending yourself. Let some opinions pass without allowing them to settle deeply inside your spirit. Your peace matters more than winning every emotional argument surrounding your life. I want you to pay attention to what drains your soul. Certain conflicts are distractions keeping your mind trapped in emotional survival mode. The enemy often uses constant tension to keep your spirit exhausted, distracted, and unable to rest fully. But wisdom is teaching you discernment now. You are learning the difference between necessary conversations and emotional traps that only steal your peace repeatedly. You do not need to fight every battle to prove your worth. Sometimes silence protects your spirit better than endless explanations ever could. Sometimes walking away peacefully reveals greater strength than continuing emotional warfare. That does not mean your feelings are invalid. It means your soul is becoming mature enough to recognize where your energy truly belongs. Now breathe deeply and stop carrying every outside opinion into your private inner world. Bring those heavy emotions to me instead. Let your spirit become lighter. Let your heart rest from the pressure of trying to manage how everyone perceives you. You are growing wiser now, more emotionally grounded, more aware that peace cannot survive where constant conflict controls your attention. And as you continue healing, you will discover that protecting your inner peace is not selfish. It is necessary for the life I am preparing your spirit to carry. My child, as you learn to stop carrying every opinion and every battle inside your spirit, I also want you to recognize the battles that truly matter. Right now there are souls fighting invisible wars in silence, and I am using this message as a sword of light against the darkness surrounding them. Every super thanks, every membership, and every seed planted through the PayPal link in the description helps push back hopelessness and carry my truth farther than you can imagine. The enemy desires distraction, exhaustion, and spiritual numbness, but I am raising up people who will fuel this mission like fire upon the altar. Did I not say those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed? As you help strengthen others, I will strengthen you in return with wisdom, favor, and unexpected peace. This is not the moment to stay passive while hearts are crying out for hope. Obey the stirring in your spirit now, sow your seed, support this work, and help carry my voice to those who desperately need to hear it before it is too late. My child, there are moments in your life that still confuse you because you only saw the disappointment while missing the danger I quietly kept away from you. Certain relationships ended suddenly. Certain opportunities collapsed unexpectedly. Some plans failed even after you prayed, worked hard, and hoped deeply for them to succeed. At the time, those moments felt painful and unfair. You thought I was withholding good things from your life, but many times, I was protecting you from consequences your heart could not yet see clearly. You often judge situations based on immediate emotions instead of long-term wisdom. Something looked beautiful because it offered temporary relief, attention, validation, or excitement. But I could already see what those paths would eventually awaken inside your spirit. I saw emotional exhaustion hidden beneath certain relationships. I saw anxiety waiting behind some opportunities you desperately wanted. I saw environments that would slowly distance your heart from peace while convincing you they were blessings. I know you still carry questions about why some doors never reopened. You still wonder why certain people disappeared despite how deeply you cared about them. But trust me enough to believe that not every loss was punishment. Some endings were protection wrapped inside pain. Some delays saved you from burdens your spirit was not designed to carry. Some closed doors prevented wounds you still cannot fully imagine today. Come sit with me quietly for a moment and stop romanticizing every path that disappeared from your life. Let your heart release the false belief that everything you wanted would have automatically created happiness. Your emotions only saw part of the picture. I saw the full road ahead. You are beginning to understand now that my protection does not always feel comfortable in the moment. Sometimes protection looks like interruption. Sometimes it feels like silence, delay, redirection, or unexpected endings. But I have never acted carelessly with your life. Even during seasons when you felt abandoned, I was still guarding your spirit more carefully than you realized. Look back honestly at some situations you once begged to keep. Now you can already see certain truths more clearly. Some people would have continued draining your peace. Some opportunities would have deepened your emotional exhaustion instead of healing it. Your perspective changed because your spirit matured enough to recognize what your emotions once ignored. Now release the bitterness you still carry toward unanswered questions. Trust that I have protected you far more times than you currently understand. You do not need complete explanations for every closed door in order to move forward peacefully. One day you will fully see how many unseen battles I fought on your behalf while you were grieving what did not work out. Until then, rest your heart in this truth. My protection has never stopped surrounding you, even during moments when life felt confusing, painful, or unexpectedly silent. My child, the strength I am building inside you now is different from the version of strength you once chased before. There was a time when you believed strength meant appearing unaffected, always confident, always productive, and always emotionally in control. You thought being strong required hiding your struggles carefully so nobody would see your fear, exhaustion, or uncertainty. But that version of strength kept your heart trapped inside constant pressure because it depended too heavily on appearances. You spent years trying to prove yourself worthy through performance. You pushed yourself emotionally because you feared slowing down would expose weakness. You looked for confidence through achievements, validation, attention, and visible success because those things temporarily silenced insecurity inside you. But temporary success cannot create lasting peace. Human approval changes too quickly. Circumstances shift too easily. When your identity depends entirely on outside stability, your spirit becomes fragile underneath the surface no matter how strong you appear outwardly. That is why I have been reshaping your understanding of strength during this season. Real strength grows quietly. It develops through honesty, endurance, humility, and emotional maturity. It is not loud or performative. Sometimes it looks like choosing peace instead of proving yourself constantly. Sometimes it looks like walking away from environments that drain your soul instead of fighting endlessly for acceptance. Sometimes it looks like resting instead of forcing yourself to carry burdens alone. Come closer to me now and stop measuring your growth only through visible accomplishments. Pay attention to the quieter changes happening inside your spirit. Notice how you recover differently from disappointment now. And notice how certain opinions no longer destroy your confidence the way they once did. Notice how your heart seeks peace more than attention lately. That is strength growing within you. I know you still have moments where insecurity returns and old fears try to speak loudly again. But you are no longer entirely controlled by them. Your spirit is becoming steadier because your foundation is shifting deeper than temporary emotional highs. You are learning how to remain grounded without constant reassurance surrounding you. Stop chasing the exhausting need to appear impressive before the world. Let your soul breathe for a moment. You do not need to perform strength every second of your life to possess it genuinely. The quiet resilience growing inside you now is far more powerful than the fragile image you once tried so hard to protect. Now trust the process unfolding within your heart. Let me continue shaping your spirit carefully. You are becoming someone who can remain calm during uncertainty, someone who can love without losing themselves completely, someone who can walk through difficult seasons without collapsing emotionally every time life becomes uncomfortable. That kind of strength cannot be manufactured quickly. It grows slowly through healing, honesty, surrender, and trust. And even now, while your life still feels unfinished in some areas, that deeper strength is already becoming part of who you are. My child, for a long time you stayed busy trying to manage symptoms while avoiding the deeper healing your soul truly needed. You distracted yourself with routines, responsibilities, entertainment, relationships, and constant mental noise because slowing down felt uncomfortable. Quiet moments often forced you to confront emotions you had buried for years. There were wounds you avoided revisiting, fears you avoided naming honestly, patterns you excused because facing them fully felt overwhelming. But something inside you has shifted now. You are becoming tired of surface-level peace that disappears the moment life becomes difficult again. You are beginning to realize that temporary distractions cannot heal deep emotional exhaustion. That awareness is not accidental. I have been gently leading your spirit toward deeper honesty for a long time, even during seasons when you resisted it without realizing. I know some truths have been difficult for you to face. You had to acknowledge unhealthy attachments. You had to recognize emotional patterns that kept draining your peace repeatedly. You had to admit how much fear, insecurity, and emotional survival shaped certain decisions in your life. That process felt uncomfortable because healing often begins with honest confrontation before peace fully settles into the heart. Come sit with me now and stop running from the deeper work your soul needs. Stop numbing your exhaustion through constant distraction. Let yourself feel what has been hidden beneath the surface for too long. You do not need to fear honesty anymore. What you confront truthfully can finally begin healing properly. You are ready now in ways you were not before. Earlier seasons of your life were filled with emotional defenses designed to protect you from pain. But those same defenses also blocked deeper healing from reaching certain areas of your spirit. Now your heart is becoming more open, more teachable, and more willing to surrender old survival patterns that no longer serve your peace. I want you to trust this process instead of resisting it. Do not retreat back into emotional avoidance simply because growth feels uncomfortable at times. The discomfort you feel now is not punishment. It is transformation. Your spirit is shedding old ways of thinking, coping, and surviving that kept you emotionally exhausted for far too long. Now breathe deeply and let your soul stay present in this moment instead of escaping it. Listen carefully to what your heart has been trying to tell you lately. Some changes can no longer be delayed because your spirit is finally mature enough to handle deeper healing honestly. You are not here by accident. This message reached you because your soul is finally becoming ready for the kind of inner freedom that only truth, surrender, and genuine healing can create. My child, when you look back at your journey honestly, you will realize there were many moments when you thought you would never recover emotionally. Certain seasons drained your hope so deeply that you barely recognized yourself anymore. You carried disappointments that changed the way you viewed life. You walked through confusion that exhausted your mind. You survived loneliness, unanswered prayers, emotional battles, and silent fears that nobody around you fully understood. There were nights when you truly believed your heart had reached its limit. Yet somehow you are still here. Not because you handled everything perfectly. Not because your faith never wavered. Not because you always understood what I was doing. You are still standing because my faithfulness never abandoned you, even during the seasons when your own strength felt almost gone. I stayed with you through every moment that nearly convinced you to surrender completely. I carried your spirit when exhaustion made it difficult for you to carry yourself. You spent too much time believing your future depended entirely on becoming flawless first. You thought healing had to be complete before peace could enter your life. You believed you needed perfect faith, perfect discipline, perfect emotional strength before new doors could open again. But listen carefully now. I have never built your future on perfection. I built it on grace, growth, honesty, and my constant presence beside you. Come closer to me now and stop disqualifying yourself because you still carry scars from past seasons. Stop speaking to yourself as though your weaknesses erased your worth. The pain you survived did not make you unusable. The struggles you faced did not cancel my plans for your life. In many ways, those difficult seasons prepared your spirit more deeply than comfort ever could have prepared it. You are stronger now in quieter ways. Wiser, more compassionate, more emotionally aware, more honest about your need for peace and healing. The transformation matters far more than the image of perfection you once chased so desperately. I have been shaping your heart carefully through every delay, every disappointment, every unanswered question, and every hidden battle you survived privately. Now breathe deeply and release the pressure to become someone flawless before trusting your future again. Let your soul rest inside my faithfulness instead of your own performance. What comes next for your life will not happen because you finally earned it through perfection. It will happen because I never stopped guiding you, healing you, protecting you, and strengthening you through every season that tried to break your spirit. And even now, as you stand between what was and what is still unfolding ahead, I want you to hear this clearly. I am not finished with your story. Stay close to me. Get walking forward. The same hand that carried you through your darkest seasons will continue leading you into the peace your heart has been searching for all along. My child, The same faithfulness that carried you through seasons that almost broke you is now calling you to help carry others who are standing at the edge of giving up. There are people finding this message in the middle of midnight battles, praying for one final reason to keep moving forward, and I am answering them through this very mission. When you give through Super Thanks, join as a member, or sow through the PayPal link in the description, you become part of the hands I am using to lift weary souls out of despair. Have I not declared, those who sow in tears shall reap in joy? I see every sacrifice, every obedient seed, and every heart that chooses to build my kingdom instead of remaining silent. What you release today will not return empty. I will breathe multiplication, covering, and divine favor upon your household. This moment is not accidental. It is an appointment I prepared before you arrived here. So do not hesitate now. Act immediately. Support this mission with bold faith, and help spread my word to the people still waiting to hear that I have not forgotten them. Before you leave this moment, I want you to think about the people in your life who may be carrying silent battles the way you once did. Someone close to you may need this reminder more than you realize. If this message touched your heart, share it with at least 3 people you care about, and let my peace reach places inside them that words from the world never could. And before you go, I want you to leave this moment with faith instead of fear. If this message spoke directly to your spirit, then write these words in the comments. I am finally ready to see what God has been showing me. Let that declaration come from the deepest part of your heart, because the season of confusion is not where your story ends. You are stepping into clarity, healing, and peace, and I want you to say it boldly so your soul remembers this moment long after the video ends. You did not arrive here by accident, and this will not be the last time I speak directly into your spirit. There are things I am uncovering in your life that your soul is finally ready to receive, and I do not want you to miss what comes next. Subscribe now, and let these messages continue strengthening the parts of your heart the world could never heal. Amen.